Hey guys, how's it going? It's the Crypto Analyst here, and I hope all of you guys are having a good morning, evening, wherever you guys are from. Welcome back to the Crypto Analyst live stream where we go over everything cryptocurrency related. We do some technical analysis, we do some fundamental analysis, and even some historical analysis. We go over the charts and talk about what is happening in the world of cryptocurrency. And right now, Bitcoin is pushing to the $9,000 area, so I want to go ahead and break this down and talk about this because it has been a little while since we have really last updated this. And even though there hasn't been a video in a while, not much has changed because Bitcoin has still been bullish, and it's just basically been a continuation pattern of exactly what we left off on last time, which is just a bullish formation on Bitcoin, of me explaining why I think that it can continue pushing higher. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that everything is right and that the notification does get sent out to everyone, and then we can go ahead and continue on with the live stream. So as everyone's tuning in, welcome guys. Go ahead and drop something in chat. Let me know that you guys are here. Let me know that everything's working properly. Then we can get this thing moving on pretty fast here. All right. How's everyone doing today? I think I can see a couple people coming in, making sure that this is right, and then sending this stream out. What's up, Randy? How you doing? Great to have you guys in here. Go ahead and make sure. I think we're good to go. All right. A little bit of error. I cannot seem to. Looks like I sent out the wrong tweet. But so good, thanks. Yeah, caught the pump. So happy, I guess. Yeah. So it's doing pretty well right now because if you look at Bitcoin and how it's working out, it's basically been setting up this ascending triangle for a little while. And so with this getting set up, it's just been a kind of a continuation, and there hasn't really been too much doubt in my mind. It was a little bit, I guess it was a little bit scary when Bitcoin was breaking down over towards this area of around the earlier mid part of May, so around May 17th, 18th, when this happened. But this is to be expected in any kind of inverse head and shoulders, or at least in any kind of ascending triangle, because with the way that this is working over here, obviously, yes, it topped out over here, came back, double topped, and then it was ready to come back down. And so with this coming back down, this allowed one of two things to be set up that I've talked about. I think it was in one of the last things, even though it's been a while, which was one, this could have been an inverse head and shoulders, or two, this could have been a giant ascending triangle. I think either of those would have been all right to affirm in this area. And it doesn't really matter what either one, because they're both bullish. And that was kind of the emphasis of the point of this area, being that they are both bullish. And I did not send out my notifications. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that is sent out now. And there we go. So I want to go ahead and break this down, look at some of the indicators, oscillators, and the candle chart, and then we can continue talking about this. Hopefully my voice is all right. I kind of broke my boom arm. Right, and not that it really broke, but I got a new table, and it's not compatible with my new table, so my mic is quite literally laying on my desk. So if we take a look at the 4-hour RSI and MACD, you can see on the MACD pretty easily that there was, again, lower levels of negative momentum coming in here, 1, 2, 3, and it lined up very, very well. It's kind of almost funny and ironic how well that this lined up, because if you do a little bit of charting and graph, you can see that, relatively around this line, that it was following the trend. The trend's your friend. Yes, you did have a little bit of bearish divergence over in here. However, immediately when you're seeing that this is almost no negativity, yes, you'd have 1, 2, now 3, this being your really just the go point for the really the turning point of when this thing wanted to shoot, immediately seeing almost no negative pressure at all. And that's really just been the name of the game. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, because with Bitcoin moving around so much and just moving so parabolically lately, the biggest part of, and really the strongest indicator is that any kind of dip has just been continued to be bought up. time and time again. I lost my chat. Yo, Laszlo, great to have you in here. Voice is fine. Mic sounds good. All right, sounds good. We broke the triangle. 9.5K is possible now. I don't see major resistance until 11K. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So we talked a little bit about this again. Upwards trend, inverse head and shoulders, or a ascending triangle. Really, each of those were very, very possible. You could have called it either of those. And I think that what was important about this is that looking at this, even without having any kind of charts drawn up over here, what you can do is you can look at this and you can say that, even without this little candle that we had over in this region, even without this information, do you really even, does this look like a top is what I'm trying to say. Does this look like a top? Minus what's circled in, does it look like a top? And personally, I think the answer is no. I don't think it looks like a top because how many tops do you see that look like this? And it's not a trick question, because how many tops do you see come up, test resistance, come up, test resistance, come up, test resistance again, come up, get near resistance? Like, how many times do you see something top out like this? Especially in a trend like we're in right now, and a trend that's as parabolic as Bitcoin's in right now, is that really going to be the top? I think that the answer is most likely no. Now, while it is possible, it's just, that's not how candle charts typically work, at least not in Bitcoin and in my experience, because when you're looking at a parabolic trend, it's not going to be this thing that's just testing and testing and testing resistance, and then it goes okay and it gives up. Like, that's just not very probable. It's just not. And so what I was doing with, I believe it was with the Patreons, is what I was doing is I was going and comparing this and saying, I do not, basically what I did is I posted a picture and I said, what does this look like? Does it look like a top? Some of them answered, and I said, well, realistically, I don't think it looks like a top. So let's go ahead and explain why it doesn't look like a top. So over here, again, very parabolic, came back down, very parabolic, came back down. None of these guys are just continuation patterns of testing resistance. And you can kind of see that time and time again over here is that, again, these are pretty sharp. These parabolic run-ups, they hit their peak and they fall. They hit their peak and they fall. They hit their peak and they fall. And just that's pretty much how it goes. Now, this one is something that I brought out as the closest rival and competitor for really a bearish argument on Bitcoin. Now, this is, funny enough, this is from last summer and around the June-July period. So a little bit later than where we're at right now. And what you had is a giant leg up, upwards consolidation, another giant leg up, consolidation, another leg up, and then consolidation. This one was a little bit similar. Obviously, this has been contradicted now, but this one was a little bit of downwards consolidation. What could have been a very, very similar situation just because of the dip over here, and then back up, and then maybe potential inverse head and shoulders. This one obviously was a lot more sloppy, but this was the closest comparison that I could find to our current situation. However, really that been already contradicted at this point, as Bitcoin is well above this range. And ironically enough, it was in the same region. This is all around the 8.2, 8.3 range. This all being around, relatively the same range as well, ironically enough. But so with Bitcoin breaking out over here, what does this mean? Where can it go? That's really a lot of the questions that people are asking over here. We broke the triangle at 9.5K. Oh, I think I already read that. Is 10K possible? Yes, it is. That's in a bear market. This is a bull market. So so that's another big point in Vogel, is that this was all in a bear market. Yes, this is all in a bull market. But okay, so let's go ahead and look at the last bull market. How did we top out? Again, so this is on Coinbase. This wick isn't on a lot of other exchanges, but this one does happen to be on Coinbase. So we came back up, we hit resistance, we came back up, formed a higher high, and then came back down pretty fast. Over here, we're not coming down fast at all. We're really floating around this range. There isn't fast rejection. There has not been fast rejection. Yes, over here, you could have said, okay, well, this definitely could have been the top. I did say that this was the temporary top over here because of how much selling pressure there was, but immediately it was bought back up. And I think that that is just, again, a very, very important part of this is how fast the dips are getting bought back up. So the question a lot of people have is, are we in a bull market? And I think the answer for that is pretty clearly yes. We are in a bull market. Now, is it a giant bull market? Is it a long-term bull market? Can it last another year? I'm not really sure about those answers, but the short-term answer is yes, we are in a bull market. For the past, For the past 6 months, since December of 2018, we have had consistent higher lows, repeatedly. And from December of 2018, we've gone from $3,000 all the way up to 8.8K, which we just hit today. So Bitcoin's up almost 3 times what it was down here. Consistent higher lows. I think it's short to say, fair enough to say that yes, we are in at least a short-term bull market. You can't say that this is all bearish. It's breaking higher. It's essentially having higher highs, breaking former swing highs. That is the sign of that's really what a bull market is. Now, has it hit all-time highs? No, it hasn't hit all-time highs yet, but it doesn't need to hit all-time highs to say that it's in a bull market, because a bull market doesn't necessarily have to hit all-time highs. You could have a bull market up to 15K and then bear market down to, 5K. Doesn't mean that, that's pretty much all the... People have like a misconception about what markets are, because a market is just really just the overall big trend, like the monthly trend. If you go look at the past 5 monthly or weekly candles, like they're all just green, green, green. So now that we have entered out of this, what was a horrible bear market into at least a bull market for the time being, not saying it's going to last another year, 2, 3, 4 years. I'm not saying that. For the time being, we are in a bull market. There's just been so much buying pressure. Laszlo said, can you give us the worst case scenario? Yes, I can. So let's go ahead and talk, before we talk about the worst case scenario, let's go ahead and talk about where I think Bitcoin's going from here. So now that we have broken our previous high around the 8.4K range, the next thing that I'm going to be looking at is the next high up, being close to $9,000 to $10,000. So why $9,000 and why $10,000? So $9,000 is a psychological resistance, and it's also a technical resistance. So if we go over here to this $9,000 area, which is right in here, you can see, let's go ahead and zoom in actually so we can see this pretty well. So if we go and get our drawing tool, we can see that around the $9,000 region, you had previous support here, previous resistance here, support over here in this range, support once again. So support turned resistance and resistance turned support. So all in this region, you have seen 9K being used, and I think that that's something to at least note, that it has been getting used in the past. Even farther back along over here, you can see that this 9K area was resistance, was support, and it was continually used. So not only is it a psychological resistance, it also has been used as a technical resistance and support as well. So if 9K can break, I'm pretty confident that Bitcoin can push up to, probably close to the 10K region before, at least seeing some harder resistance. Now, the big part about the 10K resistance is that if the 10K resistance breaks, Bitcoin's really in for a run. The reason for that being, let's go ahead and kind of draw this out. So this is pretty much the 10K area. It's just, pretty much just below 10K. But over here looking, again, there is a large gap over here. Now, over here, yes, you do have some resistance that we can go ahead and circle in, but it starts being pretty minimal in between point A, which is down here where the break would be, and point B being which is where the top is. And if you go and you look in here, there is a significantly less amount of resistance between point A and point B. The reason for that being is there's just the lack of candles. Yes, you do have a double top up here, and this is going to be an extremely, extremely hard resistance for Bitcoin to be able to break. So can it break this ultimate area up here? I don't know. I mean, this is an extremely brutal level of resistance. But with that being said, Bitcoin's already broken the hardest resistance in the history in its history. So if Bitcoin's able to break this, who's to say that it can't break this? Now, yes, it's going to be hard, but so is this level down here. So it's going to be interesting to see what will actually happen once Bitcoin gets up here, because with this 8.4K region broken, I certainly think that Bitcoin can push higher, and I definitely do think that it can push up, hopefully towards this top over here of around or if it can break this $9,000 area, hopefully we can see $10,000 before seeing some heavy rejection, because I think that either this $10,000 level or this, $11,500 to $12,000 level up here, it's gonna, ultimately, I think Bitcoin's gonna get rejected at one of 2 points. So let me go ahead and explain why. So when I say it's going to be rejected, obviously this is in the longer term. I guess I did a lot of drawing over here. So where we're at right now, I'm going to go ahead and move this to the daily so that we can see this a little bit better, and we can see the daily chart. Another thing to note is that this golden cross is absolutely phenomenal. When this golden cross happened, this thing started taking off. Initially, it wasn't going anywhere. When this thing, started moving, though, it has just been on a rocket ship. I've talked about the last time that we had a golden cross and the effects of that, and I've shown that on stream a lot. It's absolutely incredible. And so this is, what difference is this time? I mean, it's tearing through all sorts of heavy resistance like it's nothing. And with this being said, the ultimate rejection on Bitcoin, I believe, will happen in one of two places. Here, it's going to be spot number 1 around this 10K area, and here's going to be spot number 2. These two highs are going to be really hard for it to break. If it breaks these areas, Bitcoin, there's no really crazy way to say it besides, it's just going to go parabolic again. Now, do I think it's going to break these resistances? The answer is actually no. I don't think Bitcoin's going to break these initially. It hasn't seen any kind of crazy pullback for a while. I do think that if it's going to get up to this 10K or this $11,500 region, I think it's going to end up seeing some pretty hard resistance. So maybe that's something like we go all the way up to 10K, and then we see a hefty pullback. Or maybe that's, we go all the way up to, let me go ahead and erase that. Maybe we do go all the way up, we see some resistance, and we go all the way up to around 11,500, and then we see some very heavy pullback. And I think that it's going to catch people off guard, and people are really going to underestimate the fact that just how strong these guys are, in that, if we do get up here and see some heavy resistance and a lot of pulling pressure from the bears up in these regions, people are going to be caught off guard, and they're going to be really, really frustrated, especially people that FOMO'd in. Now, is it possible that we break through both of these guys and we just rip? Absolutely, but I don't know how probable it is. So, we're going to have to tell with how these breakouts are. This one is moving slow, so it does look like Bitcoin's starting to run out of a little bit of fuel. I do think that it can push hopefully a little bit higher. My target was $9,000, so hopefully it can hit that and then, maybe see some retracement. But for the time being, Bitcoin's still strong. Still higher highs, higher lows, and it's moving very, very well over here. So looking at this on the daily RSI and the MACD, you can see again, it's just the name of the game is that these dips are getting bought up on Bitcoin. Even on a daily chart, you can see it pretty well. The RSI up here did double top around 88.7 for the daily chart. Now it is making a run back up. It's absolutely still pointed straight up, so there's nothing really to say over here. One of the cool things that I was talking about to the Patreons about was this RSI chart, because this is very unique. Over here for the very, very long time, Bitcoin has been making consistent higher swing lows on the RSI, which stands for the Relative Strength Index. This is a very, very strong trend tool because of the fact that you're seeing that the Relative Strength Index is forming increasingly or consistently higher lows. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6, and you can maybe even count this as 7. 7 higher swing lows on Bitcoin is not something to take lightly. It's saying that obviously we are in a very, very strong uptrend. It's one of those mentalities that I mentioned a long time ago, which was it's just a buy the dip mentality. Now, this works until it doesn't, and so I'm not telling anyone to use this, but that has been kind of the name of the game now for months. It's literally just been buy the dip. And that only works in bull markets. Why? Because it's going to go to a higher high. So it's one of those things that it rips and then it comes back down, you buy the dip, and it rips and then you buy the dip, and then it rips and then you buy the dip. So I usually don't promote this kind of trading, but it works in given circumstances. And this has proven to be one of those circumstances. Why? Well, it came all the way up over here, it rocketed up, and then it shot back down, buy the dip. Now, it's all about timing when one wants to buy the dip. Again, I'm not saying buy all of the dips, but like for the past 6 months, it would have been a good idea. Why? Because it just kept moving higher the following months. So a lot of people say, okay, well, this is one red daily candle, I'm going to buy the dip. And it's really about perfecting the art, and so that you're not just buying the first red candle that you see, you have a reason to believe that something is bottomed. Again, this over here, why was this a good area to buy? Well, one, you saw the amount of buying pressure after this selling candle. I believe that this was like a 20% candle down, and then like 60% of the candle was eaten back up by buyers. That is a great sign that there is a large amount of buying pressure, and it's probably a bottoming candle. And that's exactly what it turned into. This was really the bull saying, no, we're not reversing in this area. We're going to continue upwards, and there's just too much buying pressure, to really say otherwise. And that was about it. So with Bitcoin, let's go ahead and move this out a little bit more. I guess we can get a bigger chart over here, and then we can talk about some of the altcoins. But I did want to talk about this because, there hasn't been a lot of videos lately, but that's mainly because not much has changed. And basically, I could do videos on like news. There's been so much news happening, but the news doesn't seem to get as well of a, as a review as the technical analysis does. Because a lot less people care about the news, at least on this channel. People are here for technicals, and really just charts. But really the charts of this hasn't changed at all. The technicals haven't changed for weeks now, for almost 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks. The technicals really haven't changed. It's just been me saying this is going to break 8,400 and move higher towards the 9K area, and that's pretty much just what I've been waiting for. And now that that has happened, I think it's only fair to do an update. So it's going to be a lot depending on these next couple of candles to see if Bitcoin really does want to push towards that 9K area. If it does see rejection here, it would be, probably not the best of things, but it's going to be all about how the rejection is. And I think that a lot of people don't understand about technical analysis is that there are like different kinds of rejection candles. There are like temporary short-term rejection candles, and then there's trend-setting rejection candles. This, I guess, could have been a kind of a trend-setting one that is a wick saying this is not, this has bottomed. This is a bottoming wick. Up here, you can go ahead and let's go ahead and look at some other examples. I mean, any of these runs matter. I mean, up here, again, wicks, and then this is it's just pretty obvious, right? Bottoming candles. Why? Crucial fall. Oops, I am all over the place with this chart. Crucial falls, buying pressure all the way back up. So here is where, this is a little bit of a different situation. That's probably not the best of examples just because of, again, the time and the circumstances of 2018. Let's choose a better run, because that was a very manipulated time in the history of cryptocurrency. So let's talk about this guy. So when this guy happened up here, this guy peaked, or this guy really fell back down, immediately bought all the way back up. Giant buying candle, buying this guy all the way back up. No wicks at all, but this was a flat double bottom. And that is, again, a sign on at least a 4-hour channel that is a bottoming formation. Why? Because it's a flat double bottom, not a tweezer double bottom, because it doesn't have any candles, but because of the fact that it is just a flat double bottom candle, and the buying pressure from this double bottom was so significant. That's, again, an indication that this was bottom, and this thing is going to be heading back up over here. That really just the opposite can be said, at least over here, that this is a topping candle. Why? You had the wick happen over here, immediately red candle dump, green candle, lower high, red candle mega dump, and then this was just a continuation pattern. And I don't want to get too far into just teaching this, I guess, because a lot of people just want to know what's actually happening instead of, getting taught. So I want to be able to respect that. So let's go ahead and we'll do this. I guess you guys can ask any questions that you guys have in the chat section, and I can go ahead and talk about Ethereum and some of the altcoins. Because for Bitcoin, I think, I've pretty much almost covered everything that needs to be covered over here. We've pretty much gone over everything, my targets, my price range, how I knew, or I guess no one knows anything for sure, but I've talked about how I thought it was significantly probable that we would break higher to a higher high, and why that just made sense for me. So I pretty much covered everything I need to on Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and talk about Ethereum. If you guys have any questions, or hit me up with those. Oh, Laszlo. I forgot to answer. Laszlo, are you still here? I think I forgot to answer your question. So this guy's a little bit of a different story. One, you can see two very, very, very well set support lines on Ethereum over here paired to the US dollar on Coinbase. And with this happening, kind of a similar situation. Consistent higher lows, flat level resistance that just broke. However, if this is rejection here, this would be a lower swing high. Not the best of scenarios for Ethereum because it, last run it hit all the way up to $282. So if it can only hit up to $271 this time, it would be a lower swing high, and again, not ideal for for Ethereum to keep moving. On the relative strength index, it doesn't look like it's done yet. Again, I would imagine that this thing gets to at least an oversold. Well, So ideally, in this kind of situation, if this thing does want to reverse, what I would imagine seeing is this come back up to the oversold or to the overbought territory, set a lower high, and then dump pretty hard, and do something like this until it gets back into the oversold territory. What this would mean is it's a lower swing high, showing that there's lower levels of negative momentum upon a swing on the relative strength index. That would be a very, very bearish thing to see, and probably a potential reversal sign potential. Other than that, the MACD kind of just a very similar thing to Bitcoin. MACD looks better than Bitcoin. It just looks a little sloppy. But other than that, I'd like to see Ethereum break this previous high. It is obviously a resistance level, but if this resistance level breaks on Ethereum, it could very easily push back up to the $400 range. Why? Because this is really just the only heavy resistance in Ethereum until it hits $400. So I know what you guys are probably thinking. Well, there are other resistances in between here and there. And that's true, yes. But this is the strongest resistance in Ethereum, at least for now. Obviously, it's broken all the other hard resistance. But if it can break this area of up to probably $300, you have very, very insignificant things to break. You have this little guy, you have this little guy, and you have, obviously what is the $400 area. But if it can break through this, I'm pretty certain that if it can break through this, this little area up here, being again this hard resistance area over here, there's nothing really stopping it over in this area, which is pretty cool because it's not very often we get to talk about that. Again, it's just kind of a blank space. There's not much happening in this area, so Ethereum could easily at least push to $360. Ideally up to 400. Jason said it's finally happening. XRP $3 by June 9th. June 9th? Did I read that right? Digibyte 10 cents or more by June 10th. Or less. Get ready. I'll tell you what, let's take a look at XRP. I might do an Ethereum video tonight. I need to do a couple videos. So for XRP, $3 by June 9th. What's today? Today is May 26th. So you're telling me, let's go ahead and get this right. This is pretty much what you're telling me. Wait, hold on. June 9th. June 9th. That's August. July. June 9th. That's pretty much what you're telling me. So you're giving this... Okay. Are you now going to start shorting 100x on Bitcoin? No, I'm not. Not at all. There's no reason to. Especially because my targets haven't even hit. So, who said this? Jason. So Jason, let's just talk about this for a second. Basically, what we're saying here is that if this happens, so basically you're saying XRP is going to go up 547% in the next 2 weeks. Back to what was previously close to its top. So I don't know if, okay, I don't think it's going to happen. Is it possible? Absolutely. But you have to remember that with Bitcoin ripping all of what it's done and all the way that it's gone so far, XRP hasn't necessarily done a great job of following. And I love XRP. Again, I own a lot. But He's just teasing you. So here, okay, I'll just keep it simple and short. I don't think XRP is going to hit $3 anytime soon. Again, eventually, I think that it will. I don't think it will anytime soon. Why? Because it's just not, you know, it's like winning the lottery, pretty much is what you're saying. XRP hitting 547% in 2 weeks. It's too large of a market cap coin to be able to do this. The amount of millions, or really rather billions of dollars that would have to flow through XRP in order to make this scenario possible is more money than I think you understand. And so I'm not saying you're stupid or anything by any of those means, but I just want you to understand that the amount of capital that would need XRP to get to this point in 2 weeks' time is a lot. It's probably more than you imagine. Again, potentially billions of dollars that would make XRP get to this point in 2 weeks. I don't think it's something that really is going to be happening in the market conditions that we have right now. Why? Because traditionals are in all sorts of places because of the China-U.S. trade deal, especially with crude oil prices dropping so fast. And it's just, you know, I don't know when the last time we saw something. I mean, obviously I do know the last time we saw something like this happen. So never say never, you know, never say never. I just don't think it's possible. I'll give you my realistic expectation of what I believe is going to happen to XRP. So my realistic expectation of what's going to happen to XRP here is that it has to conquer this 46 cents range. If it can break this 46, you know, this whole little area over here, I think that it really needs to go up and conquer anywhere from 53 to 55. Now, if it can break this guy, it can go all the way up to 62. And XRP has really got a wild spread for where its resistances are, just because of how volatile it was. Funny enough, it was so volatile over here in this range, but now it's it's not volatile at all over here. Now, obviously, in the past 2 days, it's, you know, or I guess rather the past day, it's been doing a phenomenal job. I mean, it's up, you know, nearly 3%. The only thing that kind of sucks about XRP right now is that it's moving about half as much as Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's up 5%, XRP is only up, you know, 2 to 3%. And that's what a lot of people are having with the problems with of XRP right now, is that it's been so stable. So realistically, I do think it's going to do very great things in the future. I just don't think it's going to, you know, I'm not hoping for 500% in the next, not even in the next year. XRP won't do anything in the future. Sorry, guys. Armin said banks hate XRP and 90% of individuals hating it too. So it's not entirely true, Armin. I would say that's not 90%. I mean, if it was 90% of okay, here's the thing. Let me pull it up. So if 90% of individuals, especially just individuals within cryptocurrency, hated XRP, it wouldn't be the number 3. What was the number 2 market cap cryptocurrency? It would be probably a lot lower. And I'm not trying to like nitpick you here, but a lot of people give XRP hate. It's not as bad as, or it's not as hated as everyone says it's going to be. Can I turn this on night mode? That'd be amazing. It's not as hated as everyone says it's going to be. It has its problems. A lot of things do. You know, XRP has its problems being, you know, centralized and how it interacts with banks. Bitcoin has its problems of it being slow and not being able to handle large orders of money, which is something that XRP can do, and it's significantly faster than Bitcoin. However, it does struggle with centralization problems and also with, you know, pleasing the banks that it's supposed to be serving and working. The whole like problem is that, you know, it can't really work well with those banks. But, you know, it is faster, it's cheaper, and it's far more capable of handling power than Bitcoin. But again, everything has their own problems. I mean, you can talk about anything has a problem. So nothing is without their problems. I mean, Tron's up a lot today, and I don't know how Bitcoin's SV is still alive. Let's go back to Bitcoin. What about ZRX to USD? tell you what. So with ZRX to the US dollar, pretty hard resistance around 39 to 40 cents. If it breaks that, it could like really rip. So something that I would be immediately looking at is the fact that it has tested this level twice now, is the potential for a ascending triangle or something along those lines to start forming. So maybe it's something that looks a little bit like this. Maybe actually almost 3 times now. Something along the lines of like this. Why? Because you've seen 1, 2, 3. This area around 39 to 40 cents, it's a relative area, has been very, very hard resistance for ZRX to the US dollar. So if this can break in theory, it would, be a very, very big thing for ZRX, not only because it has very low resistance. If it were to break this area, at least to the left, just because, again, it came down so parabolically, so it's not going to have much resistance on the way back up. It's a double-edged sword. So ideally, what it would ideally come down and do is probably test one of these moving averages before bouncing, or at least test support down here. Maybe that's over in here. Maybe it goes like sideways, hits resistance again, hits support. Ideally, what this needs is probably one more touch of support. Actually, I don't know if it'll even touch support again. It's possible, but it already had 1, 2, 3. So in theory, it could honestly break out now. Now, is it going to? Again, I have no idea, but it has touched support 3 times now, so there's no reason as to why it can't. Now, if this only had two touches on support, it would lead me to believe that it would be inclined to come back down one more time if it wants to respect the technicals before breaking out. But the fact of the matter is that it has already touched support 3 times. So if it really wanted to, it definitely could push towards the upside. So I'd be really watching around this 39-40 cent range, because if that area does break, I think ZRX could get pretty parabolic over here. Why? Again, just a lack of anything. You just had a large parabolic run towards the downside, and that was about it. No resistance was really set. A little bit around the 50 cent range, but yeah. All right, let's go back to Bitcoin, finish this up, and we'll be done for the night here. When is our next 4-hour candle? 54 minutes. Ooh. So areas that I'm watching on Bitcoin, let's go ahead and talk about this before I go ahead and end the stream. How far are we? We're about 37 minutes in. So I have 2 areas of support and 1 area of, now what was resistance, now support. So my targets on Bitcoin are the $9,000 area, then the $10,000 area. My targets for support are going to be this $8,400 area because it was resistance, now turned support. My next support is going to be this inclining support, or this rising support line, the 50 EMAs. The EMAs are both going to be support, as well. And then this bottom area, which was, again, resistance, then support, then support, then support, again, a support again. I believe it's still going to be support around the $7,600 area. So Bitcoin's still moving strong. It's great to see another large move towards the upside. Again, all this, what was, in my opinion, very, very clear bullish consolidation, just waiting to break towards the upside. This is very, very, I'm not sure what the textbook, I don't know if accumulation is the right word, but it's more of just a continuation pattern. I think that's the best way to describe this. This was just a textbook continuation of the trend. This was just continuation pattern through consolidation of just it saying, all right, it's going to consolidate, it's going to fluctuate, and then it's going to break this level. And to me, that was a very, very clear textbook example of this. It didn't look like a top. It was testing the flat level of resistance, setting up an ascending triangle, setting up an inverse head and shoulders. Really everything. The trend is still your friend. Any kind of dips that did happen in this area, they were getting bought right back up. Again, what just seemingly was a textbook example of a continuation in a bullish trend. So that was really cool. great for, I guess, learning purposes as well. So that was another really cool experience. Eyes set are higher. My eyes are set higher. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'd love to be able to answer those. But I did want to go ahead and just get on here. I will probably be making a video on Bitcoin and Ethereum within the next couple days because I want to talk about those guys through a video. But I did want to go ahead and do a live stream again. I haven't been as active in the past week because there hasn't been much to talk about. So I do actually have a couple of announcements that I have to go over before the stream officially ends. So announcement number one is, I guess, kind of part of the reason too there being less videos. I've been working, if you guys don't know, I trade a lot of things besides cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency being what this channel is all about. But I trade a lot of things in traditionals, and I've basically been working to get a large funded account. And that's, I just completed that project. And so now I'm in a transitional period between getting the funded account and all of the money that comes along with that. And so for the next week or so, there is no trading traditionals for me. Especially not tomorrow because it's a holiday. Number two is that with me trading, I'm not always trading cryptocurrencies. I love cryptos. They are the things that have sparked my interest significantly over a long course of time. But I do trade, I would say, I trade the minority of my trading is cryptocurrencies. I don't do even close to the amount of trading that I do in traditionals that I do in crypto. Like, I do a very small percentage of my trades in cryptocurrency. The reason for that being is that there's, I wouldn't say it's any real like screw you crypto reason. I absolutely love cryptocurrency, but I would say that the most blatant and frank reason that I have for trading traditionals rather than cryptocurrencies more often is it's easier and it takes less time and you make more money. So I don't want that to sound like a greedy thing, but I trade everything, right? I'm in this as a trader because every trader wants to make money. So if I can make money easier in less time and I can make more money for easier and less work, that's all about what making money is about. And so with that being said, I want to be able to include and teach and make videos on everything else that I'm working with. And I don't feel like it's fair that if I only make videos on something that I spend, an eighth of my time working on, if that makes any sense. So I'd love to be able, I know the name is The Crypto Analyst. I know that's what I've covered for the past year and a half solely without anything else being talked about. I would love to be able to expand into the area of talking about other things because it can be hard at times where I don't even trade cryptocurrencies for, I don't think I've traded cryptos in almost a month, but I've been trading traditionals for 8 hours a day. We're looking at, real estate and commodities and oil and cattle and lean hogs and the indexes, S&P 500, NASDAQ, pretty much everything else, stocks, everything that you can think of. And I'd love to be able to talk about that stuff as well and integrate that just because that's what I spend the majority of my time looking at and trading and everything is. But is that something that I can integrate into this channel? And so that's really the point of what I'm getting at here is that a possibility that I should start integrating into this channel, or should I just continue having solely cryptocurrency content come up? Now, the double-edged sword of that is that with it only being cryptocurrency concentrated content, it's going to be less content, and that's basically what it's going to come down to, is that it's just going to be less content because I don't know how to word this correctly, but a very small amount of money that I earn in proportion, not to say that it's a small amount of money, but a small amount of money that I earn in proportion on a monthly basis comes from cryptocurrency. So with growing up and needing more money and coming out of college and then being self-employed as a trader and then hopefully eventually getting a family and everything, obviously I'm going to need growing more money. And so with that, kind of lost my train of thought here. Basically, the large portion of anything that I do earn is in traditionals. And so I would say that that's probably what I'm more qualified to teach on, or at least to talk about. So long story short, I would love to be able to, it's the biggest rabbit trail I think I've ever said. Long story short, I'd love to be able to integrate traditionals about commodities and indexes and Forex and real estate and all those other things. I'd love to be able to talk about more things business centralized on this channel besides the fact of just cryptocurrency. So let me know your guys' thoughts on that. You guys don't have to respond. Obviously, I'd appreciate anything, whether it's an email or a message. I've had a lot of you guys, I brought this up before, a lot of you guys have been able to give some good feedback. So any of that would be appreciated because, again, this has been a lot of stuff going through my mind with the fact that I work in a lot of different fields. So let me know your guys' thoughts on that. I would love to be able to hear those in the comment section. I will be doing a little bit more charting before I round this up. And yeah. Broken. I guess we have a couple of, funny enough, I just saw this. That is actually a stronger resistance than I had thought. It's 9.8 thousand. It's going to be a 9.475 is going to be another strong one. I think that this is actually going to be a really hard level for Bitcoin to break. Is this where we need to actually do a comparison here. So with Bitcoin stopping here, it makes a little bit more sense now. So for the reason for that being is that this is where 8.8K is exactly where the death cross happened on the 4-hour chart on May 15th of 2018. So with this death cross happening, it's going to be, not only is this a top, but this is where the death cross happened. So I think breaking this is going to be kind of a psychological thing as well as a technical thing, because this lines up with, hey, this is a top, and not only is this a top, this is where the death cross happened and, you know, the price tanked. So now that it's trying to get back over this area, I think it would actually be a big thing. And we need to look at where the death cross happened on the daily as well, which is actually right here. So, so this is where, so this whole region is where there was a failed golden cross turned death cross, right at this 8K region. So this is actually stronger resistance than I had previously thought. So this could very well end up actually, well, I say very well, it could end up being a top on Bitcoin because of that. But obviously if it breaks this, you know, probably 10K is next. But this is stronger resistance than I thought. The fact that these are stacked on top of each other. But anyway, I think that's going to be it for the live stream, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. If you guys have any questions, let me know and shoot those to me on email or Discord or anything. I do want to, again, I brought this up. I want to know your guys' thoughts on expanding this channel for other purposes. I know a lot of people are seemingly against that, but it's something I feel is going to happen eventually. If not on this channel, I might start another one. So I'd love to have any kind of feedback moving into that transitional period. Anything that could make it better or advice on whether I should do it or I shouldn't do it. I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the live stream here. Expect a Bitcoin technical analysis video coming out soon, and an Ethereum. I believe I'm gonna do a Bitcoin and an Ethereum technical analysis separately. So those are actually going to be videos that should be coming out within the next couple of days. Hopefully maybe one tomorrow and one Tuesday or one Wednesday, something along those lines. So I look forward to making those, and I will see you guys very, very soon.